welcome to this special Radical Visions podcast with Fionn and Jonathan. Fionnathan. The mystery will be explained in a moment or two. My name's John Dalrymple from Radical Visions, and also with us today my colleague Francis Brown
from Radical Visions.
And Fionn and Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourselves to folks?
Yeah. Yes. Hello there. My name is Fionn.
And my name is Jonathan. And when you put our two names together, you get
Fionnathan.
Jonathan.
Shall we say a little bit about ourselves?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
So Fionnathan is a father and son team.
A son and father team.
A son and father team planning to change the world.
Yeah.
We are where, Fionn?
We are home in Galway on the west coast of Ireland.
That's right. And we have been doing our social enterprise, figuring out what it is we do as we go for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Since Fionn graduated secondary school with quite a momentous event right around then that led to our starting our business together.
Yeah.
And we'd love to tell you all about it. Thank you so much for having us on the podcast.
Yes.
That's great. Momentous event sounds intriguing.
Yes, well, it's a momentous event in the life of, well, you could say every young adult, but certainly young adults who are labeled with intellectual disability. And I think it's probably that, well, the world over, really. Most young people, of course, leaving school, they weigh up their options, and they usually choose from you could say a limited palette, but not really. The option to take a job, right? The option to go and study so that you can later take a better job, or the option of sort of finding yourself in the world, right? So I think those are three of the big things that people choose. But for people with intellectual disability, the options are more limited, because the kind of jobs that were available and are available to people with intellectual disability, are very limited, and the kinds of and the options for continuing education are only of a certain type, and we can talk about that. And university is not usually part of it. And I mean, maybe they can go off and explore the world and enjoy their figuring out who they are through their friends and all of that. But what they told you was, we have a plan for you.
Right.
What did they say, and who was they, by the way? Who was it you were having the conversation with?
I was having the conversation with the brothers of charity.
With the Brothers of Charity, one of the main disability support organizations in the area.
That's right.
And officially with
the CEO of Brothers of Charity.
Oh yeah, that came later. But I mean, who was it that came to our house and said, "Well, Fionn, you'll be graduating soon"?
Right.
What was the role of that man?
He was the disability officer for the region of County Clare.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Where you're living, right?
Yeah.
And he said you should choose a day service. That's right. That's your palette, and from which to paint a life. And in the area at the time, he said there's a menu of about 6 or 7 choices. However, he said there's no, we can't guarantee transport. So that's the caveat. You can choose, but you may not be able to get there. But we'll address that secondly. First, you should choose. And when we looked into the options, we found that some of them shouldn't have even been on the list. For example, what was the program in Shannon?
Oh, the program in Shannon was all with older people with intellectual disabilities.
Yeah,
Right.
50s, 60s was the age range. And so the very idea that they would suggest that for a 18-year-old was
yeah.
ridiculous, right? The only thing they had in common was their diagnosis.
Right.
So it was the list was quickly whittled down.
Yeah.
There was one that prided itself on bringing people out into the community, had involvement with just going to the library, going to the cafes, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But there was one factor that made it clear that it wouldn't be a good choice.
Right.
What was that?
It was tucked away in the back of an industrial estate, actually.
Yes. So the hub where they started and ended each day was surrounded by warehouses and big trucks coming in and out, moving goods. Yeah. And I thought, oh, what a metaphor there, warehousing people. So we said, none of these are going to suit you.
Right. Exactly.
And so instead we said to the officer, the disability officer,
yes, that's right.
Fionn wants to do his own plan.
Yeah.
And of course we want funding to do that. And what did he say?
He immediately said no.
He said, we don't have any option like that in Ireland at the moment. Right. And I was researching a PhD on related themes. So I said, look, I know that it's available in other countries. At that time, I don't think Scotland had yet passed its law that says everyone has a legal option. Everyone has the right to to manage their own funding. But we knew that Scotland and England and Australia and the United States and a few of the states had personal budgets. Yeah. And so we said, look, we just want to make another appointment with you and we'll talk it over again.
Yes.
And if you tell us no on that date, we'll just make another appointment with you and we'll talk it over again. Yeah. We knew that or we had it in our hearts anyway, that we could get this over the line. And it took how long?
1 year, 1 full year of negotiation.
Yeah, they were worried about all kinds of things, particularly worried about the idea that Fionn would hire his father to be his support worker.
Yeah.
I said to you, look, Fionn, you're going to have a limited amount of hours.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to count hours. If you hire me, we're going to do this as a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And I think that convinced you.
Yes, it did.
So Fionn became the first person in Ireland with an intellectual disability to manage his own funding.
Wow.
And it's pretty exciting. So that was the momentous occurrence that led to the solution they came up with. The government said, we don't want to open the door to giving individuals funding. However, if you will set up a company, we can just put it in the category of a service provider for one person. And that's a clever trick for us that helps us justify giving you funding, a very small amount of funding. But it also turned out to be a wonderful opportunity for us to think of ourselves as entrepreneurs, not just grant recipients, right? Yes. So we soon were earning more money through the company than we were being given through grants. And we'd like to tell you about a few of the creative ways that we found and repurposed grants, because some of that could be perhaps appropriate to certainly other people in Ireland, but maybe in other countries as well. So we hired Fionn kind of straight away. That was one of the the grants that we found where an employer can hire somebody with disability and receive back half the wages that they pay them. And so because it didn't feel right for me to be being paid and you not to be, when we were both working just as hard on kind of achieving this goal.
Can I just clarify? So the funding, which would have been a personal budget of some sort, and if it had been, allocated to allow them to meet their criteria, they allowed you to set up almost a small, as you called it, a small business, is it a social enterprise? Yeah.
It is. Now in Ireland, there's no structure as such for a social enterprise. You just declare yourself to be.
Right.
There's charities and there's for-profit businesses. And of course, social enterprises reside somewhere between those two categories.
Yeah, they're basically hybrids of those two models. Aren't they pretty much?
Not for-profit businesses or something along those lines.
Yeah.
What is the official category of our business? It's a company.
It's a company limited by guarantee.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
That kind of thing. And we had to find a board. 7 people who signed up. They were all friends and family because we threw it together quickly. And we've only just now, 10 years later, kind of really restructured our board and professionalized it. Right. But we have to have our quarterly meetings and our AGMs and that sort of thing.
All of those criteria. And within that, the question I had as well was, so they gave you some funding, which obviously paid for you, Jonathan, to have some payment towards the work you were doing.
Yeah.
And then
about 10 hours a week.
And then you took some of that money though and also paid Fionn as well.
No. We I get all that money. So Fionn, Fionn wanted to earn money.
Yeah.
Straight away, and actually, you were already busking at that point.
I would actually.
So you have to say a little bit about your relationship to music and how that's worked for you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. I do enjoy busking because I guess to meet my members of the local community, both the locals and the tourists.
There's a lot of tourists who come to Galway.
Oh yeah.
That come to Galway,
Yeah. So maybe some of the people watching this are unfamiliar with the term busking. So, Fionn, do you want to explain what that is? I think probably most are, but I know in some parts of the world that's not a common term.
Right. Okay. So busking is just a term that means street performance.
Performance. And what do you play?
I play the traditional Irish fiddle.
And what age were you, Fionn, when you started to learn that?
I started when I was 9 years old, and I'm 29 now.
Yes.
I think Fionn was, about 15, 16, 17 when he was doing a bit of trying this out in different places.
Yeah.
And I started to learn the guitar just to be your backup.
Oh, yeah.
And driver, kind of justified by driving you to Limerick and here to Galway before you moved, or to Dublin, various places.
Oh yes,
and Fionn was when he busked, earning pretty well, right? Like surprisingly well, a lot more certainly than minimum wage. If he had a different kind of job, he'd kind of make 3 or 4 times that amount of money per hour. But of course, there's the weather to consider. So it's not that you can busk every hour that you want to, even when you are available. But the problem is that I mean, there's the tax man, right? And what most buskers do, on the first level, it's just you're supposed to pay a portion of it into revenue. First level is you're supposed to declare it as income, which is something that anecdotally very few buskers do.
Yeah.
But then we said, well, this is one of the advantages of having a company.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your income.
Right.
It can be company income.
Yeah.
And then we can pay you. Our minimum wage is what we established we would pay Fionn, because the grant only reimburses for half of minimum wage. If you're receiving, €100 an hour, if your company pays you that much, the company still only gets half of minimum wage reimbursed. And as you say, Francis, then there was the question of how this would affect his benefits. And on the first level, one of the things that the benefits officers hate is if your income fluctuates every week, for obvious reasons, because they have to recalculate every week.
Yeah.
Or they're a bit lazy. There could be the individual who says, I don't want to recalculate. I'm just going to choose the top level and recalculate according to that. And we've had that happen to us. And then we only realized it later and had it fixed backwards. But the point is, the more you earn, the less you receive in disability allowance.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know how it is in Scotland. I'd like to hear, and I don't even know in England for disability allowance, but I know for carers allowance, you're allowed to make a certain small amount of income. And if you make £1 over that threshold in a week, you get zero.
Yes.
Right? Whereas Ireland has
off the cliff.
Yeah. Ireland has a progressive system where there's an amount that's not counted, and then every €10 above that, they take 5 off of your of your payment. Now, I mean, that could be a fair system. It's just that it's too quickly taken away. So the people who receive no disability benefit because of earnings earn just above poverty wage. It's like it's a £12,000 euro per year. When you would reach the place where you receive no, they say now you're independent and you don't need any government support anymore, which is just ridiculous. So this system that we worked out, where Fionn is paid minimum wage for each hour that he busks, and all that money goes into the company, is just a clever trick that all the corporations are using all over the world. We just created for ourselves a corporation, a corporate system where we could avail of that steadying.
It makes me think how much of a pioneer, or how much pioneers you are in the momentous event. Triggered lots of breaking of new ground, really, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you obviously really have to be clever. You need to know. It's the first time I've ever heard of a company limited by guarantee working in that way, and it's fascinating. So.
Fionn was not the first person in Ireland to have a disability budget, a personal budget for disability supports. He was only the first person with intellectual disability.
Yeah.
So before him, there were 30 or 40 people with physical or sensory disabilities who had budgets, and we the government works through a broker. Right now, there's different brokerage models for personal budgets, of course, and self-directed supports. In this case, the money goes through them, but they're not the employer of the of the support, the personal assistant. They allow the individual to contract. The individual has to get insurance and is the employer of record.
Yes.
So it has to do all the things that any other employer does. So that's a big burden for a person with disability who's just looking to have control over their supports. But it's one
very
system.
similar to how direct payments came into place in the UK in the mid-90s.
Okay.
That
Yes.
initially it was people with physical disability who could obtain them, were expected to apply for them. People with intellectual disabilities were kind of excluded for a time. And so, it's a similar kind of history there.
Aye.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, when Fionn started the arrangement, the other 30 or so, they call them leaders. Language is important, and they didn't want to call them clients. So the leaders with disability who have personal budgets, none of them were doing what we had done, even though I think they all had to set up their own companies. So they were just looking at the company as a means of providing support for themselves. But we do know that one of them said, well, look, I understand all this paperwork that each of us have to fill out, and you have to submit your financial records every year. I'll provide a service where I do the bookkeeping for you if you want to employ me. So I think he's, to our knowledge, the only other person who's sort of used the corporate structure that he was required to set up to earn income for himself in other ways, to create a job for himself effectively, which is a model that we advocate very strongly.
Yeah.
So are you saying that all of those 30 to 40 people, leaders as you described, all had to set up a company to get their budget?
Well, I thought so until recently. We had a conversation with someone who's another person with Down syndrome who, since within these 10 years now, also has a personal budget and also uses the same network. And that person's mom told us that he didn't have to set up a company. Yeah. So maybe, it is a bit like pioneering, and like pioneers of the Wild West, the rules are being worked out as we go. So I think it would be a little bit crazy for the government to continue to require each individual with a disability who wants control of their money to set up a full company.
It sounds like for you guys and for others now able to hear your story, as John says, you've taken this barrier and you've created the best opportunity that you could have with that, and used it to really think outside of the box and think differently and embrace it. But to be fair, you wouldn't expect a system to expect every single person who wants to have a direct, budget, whatever way they want to have that managed, to have to set up a company to do that, to get the money for their own support. So I think what you've done is amazing. And, and I think it'd be, I don't know how, obviously you're on this podcast and we're glad that you're telling us the story and we can share that. But it feels to me like that story needs to be out there even wider. Yeah. I really want everybody to hear how you've embraced that moment, that, as you say, transition moment that's really difficult for people. Because what you've done is you've just said, no, we're not going to fit into your boxes. And I'm going to use this vehicle that they almost gave you, which was a barrier in the first place, to do something really freeing and allow you to do all these really different things with it. It's just really amazing, I think, an amazing story.
We've known you since 2019, but I don't think we've ever understood
that
you had to start in that way. So it's just shocking.
Yeah. So it's a brilliant example of just how you guys have done that, and for other people to hear it, and continue to hear it, I think is really important. It would be good for people in Scotland to hear how you've done that, I think, and used that money very differently and used it as a business. Set it up as a business, use the money to create opportunities, create different ways that you can use your skills and gifts, so I think it's
well done.
Brilliant.
And I suppose it makes me think how different life might have been for both of you. Had you had you just trailed off to wherever they wanted Fionn to go with the older people or whatever, that it's such a contrast between a kind of monochrome world and a fully coloured in world, isn't it? It's just
I do think the options that Fionn was being provided with were traps, really. Yeah. Because Fionn wouldn't have been able to live the life that he wants to live.
No.
Everyone has restrictions on what's available, right? And we came into the game with lots of privileges, of course, that others don't have. And I think the main one really is that that we're able to be together doing this project, that I'm devoting myself full time and you're devoting yourself full time to it. And that makes all the difference, because people who are trying to do this alone, you can't do the world alone. we firmly believe that there's strength in collaboration. And this vision, this picture of circles of support, which I'm sure you're both very familiar with, and you've probably discussed them on previous episodes, is something that really inspires us. And we felt that we wanted to, when we were told you'll need a company and it'll have to be a board of directors, then we said, oh, well, that's a circle of support. Yeah. Or at least we're not looking for strangers with business skills. I mean, skills are great, but what we want are people who are really invested in Fionn and helping him to achieve things in life.
That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It's a great way to think.
So creative as well, isn't it?
Again, getting burdened with the idea of having a company and a board. What you've got is a circle of support, which is completely invested emotionally and intellectually in you guys, as people, and they're going to support what you want to do. So it's a completely different way of thinking about it again, and using a circle to do that. It's great.
Can I read you a quote from your own website? Because I found this quite intriguing.
Sure. Okay.
And it says, so this is Fionnathan Productions. We are seriously into social justice and conserving natural habitats. With this project, we hope to achieve 3 primary goals. 1, to win for Fionn an excellent life while documenting and sharing the journey. 2, to inspire and support other people in achieving their own dreams. 3, to shift the societal paradigm so that unique and alternately gifted people are celebrated. And I think that's just it's really powerful. And is that still the guiding kind of vision for Fionnathan Productions? Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's locked in the sense that we every new company has to register your company aims. Yeah. And that's kind of that's basically what we wrote. Those 3 aims, and so they're very much still there. Yeah. The first one, I think it's an ongoing work. It's kind of like, how do you find balance? It's not, oh, now I found balance. It's like, whoa, I thought I was balanced. Whoa. So it's an ongoing thing, this idea of having a great life. Yeah. Like, what does that really mean? And but I think we're doing pretty well in that regard. Yeah. And I should say, obviously, I have a great life through this as well. Oh yeah. Like on paper, it's about Fionn, but really, again, no one's alone. The second goal of sharing our story so that we can help others. That's kind of where we're focusing now. That's the direction that our efforts are going into. And the third one is forever, right? The third one, it's about the things that make living life as a disabled person such a crummy deal. Because there's no real reason why impairments should prevent you from having a great life, except the society that we've structured around people, right? So we often give the example of wheelchair users in Dublin, wanting to do what?
Wanting to take the train home.
Wanting to take the train home, or out for a festival or a class or whatever.
Festival or class.
And what's the rules? What's the structure? How is that? How are people with wheelchairs provided for?
You basically have to call the station 24 hours in advance.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then they'll get you on. They guarantee that you'll get on and on. Well, I don't know if it's a guarantee. They say they'll do their best. But also, if you change your mind in the intervening time and your friends say, let's go out for a drink before we go home, then you don't have the right to use the trains. So we think that limitation is only there because we've made it that way. Like it would be solved tomorrow. We could literally solve it tomorrow if we just paid for it. And that's really what we do so often to people. We say, well, we're making choices, and our choice is that you don't get to have the life that others have because, equity is too expensive. And so we continue to fight that. Obviously, what we know most about and what we often find ourselves working toward primarily is people with intellectual disability. But me being a father of you has helped me to see that there's a lot of marginalized people in our society, and that really, if your interest is in humans, you need to be interested in all of them. And kind of how can we have I think a fair society is a healthy society. I think we all suffer from having inequalities.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. We've been doing training over the last couple of days, and one of the themes is that thing that you've just described, the social model of disability as opposed to the kind of medical model. The problem's not the disability, it's the society in which the person with a disability has to operate, the attitudes you encounter, or the obstacles you have to overcome.
I liked what you just said there, though, specifically. Equity is too expensive.
Yeah.
I think that way of looking at it, that is the real barrier, isn't it? It's not that we can't do it, it's just we're not prepared to do it, spend the money to make sure those things are available every single day, the same as it would be for you and I. It's about money. It's about challenging those things, isn't it?
It is a little more complicated than that, of course. If Fionn is interested in a group, because you're so interested in wildlife and nature and bird watching. What group am I thinking of? I think they're based in Texas.
Bird ability.
They call themselves. This is primarily bird watchers who use wheelchairs or who have limited mobility in other ways. And they argue for, they fight for, and they work for accessible paths into wild areas where birds can be found.
Yes.
But if you think of that as a philosophy, like you do you want all paths in the world to be accessible? Do you want all mountains to be accessible? Like, I mean, there is a place where you have to recognize, well, certain things are not going to be available to everyone, and that's on the one hand, like that's a bitter pill. On the other hand, like that's what life is. Like we all find ourselves in that category of this is not available to you, right? And I think some of us are always trying to, but I want to go into space. I want to, whatever the thing might be.
Yeah, that's quite different, though, isn't it, from the stuff that should be available to all of us every day, like public transport. All of the public.
That's right. That's the basic rights. There's no question that we all deserve equal health care.
Exactly.
When it comes to like the latest super laser techno surgeries, maybe we don't all deserve that until one day we do. If my neighbor deserves it, then why not me too? I think that's kind of where we want to go. Another big challenge of it is, am I willing to give up something that I have to, like an additional privilege, to make sure that my neighbors have the basic privileges? And that's a whole philosophy of life. But our company, our third goal is to work toward that, an equitable society.
Yeah.
And that echoes the we're here to change the world part, which on one level sounds, grandiose, but at another level, if you don't have that aim, if you're not encompassing that wide vision, then you certainly will never get there. Yeah,
that's true. Fionn, do you want to say something about the Happiness Project? Because I think in one small way we really are changing the world, or at least a few million people's perspective on the world for a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's I ask people usually just the one question, which is, what do you love about your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you say you ask them, what's the context?
How do you mean?
What you ask them? You ask who, when, how?
So it started with me asking that question of people with Down syndrome in Clare, but more recently I have been interviewing. I've been interviewing celebrities.
Mm-hmm. So
and asking them that question,
right? And I record the discussion, and then post them on our channel, a YouTube channel, which is called
Fionnathan Presents the Happiness Project.
Right.
So Fionn asking this question, what do you love about your life? And having people answer that question. We've done, I think we're approaching 800 interviews over these 10 years since we started that around the same time as we started our company, when you were finishing up secondary school.
Yeah.
And some of those, as Fionn mentioned, that there's some celebrities. The way I like to say it usually is, of those 800 or so, nearly 200 are people with a Wikipedia page about them. So that level of celebrity, but in many different fields, mostly the fields that you yourself are interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
So professional musicians, filmmakers, actors, sometimes authors and politicians, and just a wide variety of people in many countries too.
Yeah.
That whenever we travel, we do these interviews. And because a couple of them have gone viral, I think collectively well, there's over 4 million views
Wow.
for the whole channel.
Yeah.
And some really great feedback about how this project helps people. That helps people to have a positive outlook. Our mutual friend Simon Duffy suggested the title of the Happiness Project, which I think fits very well.
Yeah.
No, it's great. And the question itself is so innocent in one way, but it provokes quite revealing answers. I'm sure that it draws you in, and then you think, oh, what do I love about my life?
Yeah. It's exactly that, John. In one way, it was designed around people with Down syndrome being the respondents, because we wanted to help with a fundraising project for Down Syndrome Ireland, where there's about 100 cyclists, bicycle riders who spend 4 or 5 days traveling around a chunk of Ireland. It's called what?
The province is called Munster.
The province is called Munster, and so the cycle event is called
the Tour de Munster.
The Tour de Munster.
Yeah.
And there's and everyone who rides needs to get subscriptions. People who agree to donate money. But a lot of those riders don't know anybody with Down syndrome, don't have a particular interest in Down syndrome. They just like to ride their bike. And so we wanted to take the opportunity of one of the evenings when they were being hosted in County Clare, where we lived at the time, to show them a little movie of people with Down syndrome around County Clare. And so I asked Fionn to come up with a question when we could go and do interviews, and you came up with that one.
I did,
which I thought, this will suit us perfectly, because people with Down syndrome have a wide. They're all so different from each other, and some of them have, all of them have great gifts, but some of them are easier to see than others. And similarly, all of them have some kind of challenges, as do all of us. But oftentimes you find people with Down syndrome who are not very articulate or who have no speech at all. And I thought to myself, how can we interview them? How can we include people without speech? That seems like an impossible thing. But then when you came up with that question, what do you love about your life? I realized, well, we can interview people who love them. We can interview their parents or their siblings. We can interview, we can show the thing that they love. We don't need speech, right? So what were some of the things that we ended up filming people doing?
Playing music, playing with their dog, racing greyhounds, baking and cooking, surfing, and even driving a car.
So we were able to show a lot in this short movie. It wasn't just spoken interviews, but it went really well, and people enjoyed the little movie we made. And then we were invited onto a national television talk show to speak about it, and that gave us a little bit of renown and small, our 15 minutes, I suppose. But I said to you afterwards, look, you're figuring out what you want to do with your life. This question, what do you love about your life? Why don't you ask people who are successful in the fields that you're interested in, and maybe that will give you a window into what it's like to live life doing that thing, with that thing as your career, as your passion. So that's where the whole thing began.
Wow.
And we often give talks because Fionn's doing something quite unique. We want to make sure that the social care system is aware of it. And also, of course, it's in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which says that people should have choice and control in their lives. And when we look at the day services that most people with intellectual disability sign up for, we realize how can you give choice and control when you have 8 or 15 people supported by 1 or 3 people at a time? Like if one person wants to go this direction and another person wants, how do you do that? You can't group.
Yeah.
You can't give choice and control to individuals if you group people up together.
Yeah.
So we go to social care programs, and we've been very fortunate to be invited and invited back.
Yeah.
We've given lectures, guest lectures at 34 universities, a total of 90, I think about 95 lectures now in 8 countries. So we do this a lot. And one of the messages we often give when we talk about that question, what do you love about your life, is it's a really good place to start if you're interested in helping people, if you're interested in helping people with disability. That it's so easy for us to fall into the mistake of saying, I want to help you. I really do. My heart's open to you. I know what a good life is, so I'm going to help you achieve my version of a good life. Like you can hear the mistake in that. But Fionn came up with the ideal way to start the conversation. What do you love about your life?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what your life is. I'm not going to presume, but let's protect whatever it is. Let's build upon whatever it is that's important to you before I, come in and mess things up by, imposing my ideas or, the ideas of experts. What do you love about your life? So we share that with social care students, and hopefully make an impact upon the way they see what their job will be.
Yeah.
Your short movie, is it available on your YouTube channel?
It's buried somewhere amongst the
somewhere.
I don't
What's
know.
the title of that? If people wanted to look for it, what's the title?
Yeah, I think that one is actually called "What Do You Love About Your Life," whereas nearly all the others are called "What Do You Love About Your Life, Cillian Murphy," or what do you love about your life,
Kieran Culkin.
Kieran Culkin, which was an interview we got last month. He won an Academy. Both of those guys have won Academy Awards. But so you can search through for people's names. But if you I don't know how easy it is to search. We should probably figure out on YouTube whether we can, what is it called? Like pin that video.
Yeah.
Maybe we've already done it. Just go in and enjoy.
We will. I'm thinking we go and certainly go and have a watch at that video, and it's maybe something that would be useful for people to be able to get access to the short.
Yeah.
Did.
As well as those kind of aim high and getting videos with the President of Ireland and people of great renown. We've also focused on people who live unique lives. So, I mean, artists, but also people who are considered to be disabled in all ways. And even when we last saw the two of you in person a little over a year ago, we were in a country where the language commonly spoken is not English. And so to have an interview with someone who only speaks Spanish, which is a language that we don't speak, and how to engage and have that interview. It is, because that's a kind of disability too, isn't it? The fact that you don't share a language. So a lot of the videos are of that sort, exploring ways to connect with people who are different from us and different from most of the people who watch them.
How do you get access to all of these people? How do you get those people? How do you find them to have the interviews? How does that happen?
Life.
Life.
Well, oftentimes it's that. So the vast majority of the interviews have happened through just being somewhere and meeting someone. And just, last week the two most recent ones are from a man from Mexico who now lives in Switzerland and is the head of an agricultural initiative for not only organic agriculture, but regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And the other is a man born in Ghana who now lives in Los Angeles and has done amazing work with helping people to see the humanity in other people. So we met those two through, and a lot of other amazing people through a youth camp that Fionn attended, and we just thought, let's see if they'd be willing to do the interviews. Sometimes
you don't really meet Oscar winners very often, and just
right. I was going to say sometimes we do kind of seek them out. And we love films, for instance. So we do a lot of we don't do a lot, but we do a fair few film festivals.
Right.
And it used to be we'd go to a film festival that we would do kind of guerrilla interviews. Like we'd just show up and we'd know that somebody would be speaking after a film. In fact, when you interviewed Kenneth Branagh, it wasn't. I had to swing the camera around because Fionn had a microphone in the audience and Kenneth was up on stage. So he maybe didn't actually give permission to be showing up on our channel, but that's the nature of celebrity, I suppose. Yeah. But most nowadays I've gotten smart and I reach out to the press officers or to the organizers of events, and I explain why we're doing it. I say, look, this is an unusual press request. We're an unusual team of interviewers, but and so often people go out of their way to accommodate us, which is, it's down to you, but it's also down to why we're doing it, right? What we're really trying to do. So we've had amazing success with it. I don't know where it'll go. We haven't monetized it as such. We just put them up for people to enjoy. It has opened some doors for us, for Fionn to you rub shoulders with the rich and famous, and they give you bags of money. No, that's not really true at all. But it does. But it feels like it feels like you're part of that world, right? I guess you could put it that way. Right? So that's a very important thing for someone like Fionn, right? Who typically is sort of forgotten, right? People with Down syndrome and other conditions like it are usually not considered to be the person you meet at the edge of the red carpet, so to speak. Who's got a following, who can help you to become more popular, or to spread your word to other audiences. And people really do, I think, respond to you in a way that really does feel like their hearts open up. And we've heard people who say, I'm on a press junket, I've been doing interviews all week, and they don't quite say it this way, I'm so sick of interviewed, but you, Fionn, this interview is meaningful to me. So we've heard that time and again in many different ways.
Listen, I think, I know that we've only really scratched the surface here, and we're already coming up towards the hour mark. I think we would like to invite you to do this again and tell more of this, because I know there's so much more from Harvard University to
wanted to United Nations.
And, so would you guys be up for that? That sort of episode 2?
We would love that. Yes. As you say, there's so much more to tell, and particularly in the realm of this idea of getting the word out. As you said, both said, that we want to share the learnings, and we've got some pretty good ideas about how other people can adapt or just start from scratch, but with
Yes.
an optimistic attitude.
Yes.
And a few tricks we've learned along the way.
Well, that's right. And you were
we'd
saying
love
at the
to share
beginning
more of
about how to use some of the funding that comes to you
That would be really good.
in the way that you want to use it, rather than So no, it'd be great to pick your brains on that and just hear your experience in all these different places and fields. So thank you very much for today.
Yeah.
It's been good fun, and
Absolutely.
we'd love to
Yeah.
continue this in a week or two's time. So
Wonderful. We look forward to that. Thank you for having us on, and we wish you all the best, and everyone watching all the best to you as well.
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Radical Visions for Social Care podcast. As mentioned in the episode, we'll have a follow-up chat with Fionn and Jonathan really soon, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. In the meantime, you can find out more about all of their work and ours via the show notes, both on Spotify and YouTube. If you have feedback or have a question for us to pose to Fionn and Jonathan the next time that we meet them, you can contact us on info@radicalvisions.com. Join us again soon.